The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
we are now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am, of course, your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Monday, February 20th, 2017. Thanks so much for joining us on this President's Day. I thought, for a moment there, I thought I would take the night off because it's a holiday, but I didn't want to not be here with you tonight. So here we are. Here we are, another episode. A lot has happened over the weekend. We're going to get to all that. And as always, I want to thank our patrons at the top of the show, because without you, we could not do this. All of our newest patrons, old patrons, and then those of you who may not be able to support the show financially, but you share, you like, you subscribe, you leave comments. Everything that you guys do make the show, you all do, make this show possible. So let's jump into the news. You'll be able to call in and sound off 857-600-0518 if you want to join the conversation. We'll be discussing quite a few things tonight. But first, should we do our vegetables first, or should we? All right. So I'm not even going to pretend to be measured in my response to Milo Yiannopoulos being possibly fired from Breitbart. He lost his book deal with Simon & Schuster, and he has been disinvited to CPAC. I don't really care about CPAC, because CPAC is what is it, conservative, whatever they actually stand for. But it's kind of drivel anyway. It's a convention of conservative shills. But he was to headline or be a keynote speaker at CPAC, and he has been disinvited, all because of a very disturbing video. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I really struggle with whether or not I was going to play the video, because it is disturbing. When you listen to it, there's a lot of profanity, which is not the big deal because I cuss a lot here, but it deals with the question of pedophilia and the question of the age of consent. And the video, you can judge for yourself, but the video is clearly, in my opinion, of Milo tacitly endorsing. Actually, no, let me choose my words a little more precisely. Tacitly condoning pedophilia. And you can decide for yourself if you think that's what he said or if that's not what he said, whatever. But enough people believe that that's what happened, to the extent that it became a big deal. Now, to context, this conversation actually took place on a YouTube channel about a year ago. It's called The Drunken Peasants with the Amazing Atheists. And once you watch the video and you listen, you're going to hear the host. They can barely take the conversation as it was happening live. So I'm going to play it for you. And warning, if you have kids around, 100% turn off the show. Or send your kids to the other room. So I'm going to talk a little bit more to give you about 30 seconds to send your kids. I know I have kids that listen to the show, but send them to the other room, because it is really disturbing. And then there are a lot of questions about whether or not Milo was a victim or the victimizer. I'm really just stalling to give you a chance to let your kids leave. All right. So if you're listening at this point, that means you have dismissed your kids from the room, or you're not listening. So here we go. I'm going to play it for you. It is long, so I'm going to stop and start, and we'll just kind of dissect it as we go. But this is Milo on The Drunken Peasants discussing and this is what ultimately got him kicked, banned everywhere.
I do have to wonder, if Milo is okay with
It's
adults
this guy.
getting their cocks
Yeah, I
sucked by
know.
14-year-olds, what would happen if a 14-year-old
Yes.
wanted to?
Yeah, look at him. Holy shit.
Is that me
That's
without
Milo.
my glasses on? Hold on. Hold on, let's
It
look at
does,
the right way.
it
More
does
hair.
look like Paul.
Now, I'm playing it in full context. I paused it momentarily because I want you to know there's a lot of conversations going on in the background. Those are the hosts. They're discussing a video of someone discussing Milo. Now, Milo is in this video. He's live with the host, and he's going to chime in momentarily. So let's keep listening.
It's British Paul.
It's British Paul with hair.
Can we put some
Christ,
aviators
man.
on him? Can we put some aviators and a hooker in his hand? Can we see what he looks like?
Someone can do that. Audience, make that for Milo.
The whole consent thing for me is once again, it's not this black and white thing that people try and paint it.
All right, the voice you're hearing now, for those of you who don't know, that's one of the hosts of the Drunken Peasants. And I'm doing this mainly for the radio audience. I know on YouTube you could actually see this. But for the radio audience, you're getting ready to hear one of the Drunken Peasants hosts explain his take on consent. And then immediately following this, you're going to hear Milo's take.
There are some 13-year-olds out there capable of giving informed consent to have sex with an adult? Probably. But I was also a 13-year-old. I hung around with 13-year-old guys, you know, when I was 13, and there were some of them that still thought girls were fucking icky at 13. Like, not many, but like they were just coming out of that phase. I don't know that I was ready at 13 to get fucked in the ass by a 28-year-old black drag queen, is what I'm saying. So you can't. The reason these age of consent laws exist is because we have to set some kind of a barometer here. We've got to pick an age and go, okay, look, this is the age where we can reasonably be assured you're an adult, you can give informed consent, you understand the risks and pregnancy risks, and all that bullshit.
I think the law is probably about right. That's probably roughly the right age. I think it's probably about okay. But there are certainly people who are capable of giving consent at a younger age. I certainly consider myself to be one of them. People who are sexually active younger. I think it particularly happens in the gay world, by the way. And in many cases, actually, those relationships with older men. This is one of the. This is one of the reasons I hate the left. You know, there's sort of stupid, one size fits all policing of culture. There's sort of this arbitrary.
Milo.
This arbitrary.
Let him talk.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll
be quick. This arbitrary and oppressive idea of consent, which totally destroys, the understanding that many of us have of the complexities and subtleties and complicated nature of many relationships. You know, people are messy and complex, and actually, in the homosexual world particularly, some of those relationships between younger boys and older men, the sort of coming-of-age relationships, the relationships in which those older men help those young boys to discover who they are and give them security and safety and provide them with love and a reliable and sort of a rock where they can't speak to their parents. Some of those relationships are some of the most
molestation to me. It sounds
well,
like
you know what?
It sounds like Catholic priest molestation to me.
And you know what? I'm grateful for Father Michael. I wouldn't give nearly such good head if it wasn't for him.
Oh my God! I can't handle it.
It's funny because
what is wrong with you, Ben?
Ben gave me some homework on you, Milo. He gave me a few videos.
All right, I'm going to stop it there. And I'm at the 158 mark just mentally. All right, I have to. Let me address this from what stands out, and actually in order of the highly problematic things that he said here. Now, again, full transparency, I'm dancing on his political grave. Milo, long time ago, should have been outside of the discourse in America, but conservatism is so desperate to have a hero and to have a rebellious hero or someone that they can deem cool that they accepted this pig. They accepted this fascist Nazi pedophilic condoning pig, pedophilia condoning pig. And so shame on you, conservatism. But there's something he said at the beginning that I wanted to chime in on Twitter today, but I couldn't because of the complexities and the subtleties of the conversation. You know, one, this is not what I want to chime in on, but Milo is so full of himself, right? And, you know, just because you can say something disgustingly intelligently, actually, no, let me fix that. Just because you can say something disgusting intelligently does not change the fact what you said is both disgusting and should be relegated to the dregs of our society. And I use intelligently loosely because, you know, big words isn't, and not even big words, but his tone and his mannerisms and his sense of condescension, matched with his particular vocabulary choice, makes him seem as though to conservatives that he's intelligent. I always laugh at the idea that Milo is an intellectual on the right because his arguments, just regardless of how he presents it, his arguments have always been fatuous at best. Now, that set aside, the first thing that I wanted to chime in on with regard to Milo is how carelessly he throws the entire LGBTQ community under the bus with regard to this long-standing belief that homosexuality equals pedophilia. I am not gay. I am not a part of the LGBTQ community with the exception of being the best ally that I can be. But one thing I do know, because of my time in church, my time in religious circles, is that there is this conflation, this willingly obtuse conflation between homosexuality and pedophilia. And it is one of the reasons you have so many people who would fight until they die against gay couples being able to adopt children because of this assumption that gay people are automatically pedophiles. And here, Milo casually and callously throws the entire gay community under the bus because of his twisted ideology. And the reason that bothers me so much is because I saw it firsthand. I saw preachers and pastors. I saw activists I've even done videos on it. This is the guy from Orlando, the pastor from Orlando, or the pastor from California who was discussing the massacre at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, casually laughing about the murders of almost 50 people, if not more, because he considered them pedophiles simply because they were gay. Milo does not care about anybody except himself and his money and the money he can make off of being the most disgusting, quote unquote, dangerous individual he could possibly be. Because if you had any regard for that fight, you would not take your perversion and imbue it on his pedophilic musings. That is twisted. That is perverse. And he imbues that onto the entire gay community without any regard to the fact that that's one of the long-standing stereotypes from religious circles and one of the number one reasons people fight against children being adopted by gay couples. Never mind the fact that children are growing up in foster homes without the ability to have parents because straight couples, not enough straight couples to actually adopt all of these kids. There's so many kids. And so because of this stereotype, we have thousands of children who will never have homes except for in state custody. And there's so many problems that have to be discussed about that alone, that once he said that, I'm like, this guy not only doesn't care about anyone besides himself, but he is absolutely a threat to, and and everybody's like, oh yes, he's a threat. Yay, that's what we want. No, he is harmful to the very community that he draws an identity that gives him the unique footing inside of the conservative movement. In other words, he benefits from being the gay voice in the conservative movement, and yet he throws the gay community underneath the bus without any regard to their actual fight. All right, that's the first part. The next thing about this Milo clip that is clearly disgusting and disturbing is his desire to dismiss the notion of consent and the age of consent because he believes that it's some type of left-wing philosophy that has no place in society. And he raps, and mind you, think about who he's talking to. He's not just talking to let me start that sentence over. He's talking to the alt-right, and I'll call them alt-right for the sake of this, but he's talking to the alt-right community, many of whom are already repulsed by the notion of consent. If you dare go into these communities, you have people who dismiss this notion of consent, not just based on age, but just in general. Like, they don't believe that rape can actually happen, or if it happens, the woman earned it, or the guy earned it, or they worked for it, or as Milo has said in other clips, that they're doing it as a sense of bragging. When a woman reports rape, she's bragging. So he's preaching to a community that already is beyond problematic on consent. They already dismiss the fight against rape culture. And a community, if you dare go to 4chan, who really would prefer society better if society would force women to have sex with betas, because that's the best way for betas not to go ballistic, to not go and shoot up places. I shit you not. This is the type of conversations that happen on 4chan in that community, and this is who Milo is talking to. So yes, he's discussing, quote unquote, and this is from the clip, intergenerational sex, pedophilia. Yes, he's discussing pedophilia, but he's also undermining the fight against rape culture in general, no matter what age, no matter what intergenerational status, no matter what gender, no matter what. There is a fight against rape culture because humanity, not just America, but humanity is steeped in rape culture. But specifically for him to just casually throw around this tacit condoning, it's not the proper way to say it, but tacitly condoning pedophilia and making a joke out of it is beyond the pale, even for someone who's a Nazi sympathizing, racist, sexist, transphobic piece of shit. Now, we've opposed Milo for quite some time because of everything else that I just listed. But apparently, finally, he's gone one step too far for conservatives and for his book publisher. And he has subsequently been dropped from the CPAC speaking engagement, dropped from Simon & Schuster for his book deal entitled Dangerous. And potentially, if the Hill reports correctly, he's going to be dropped from Breitbart.com. In fact, some employees of Breitbart are threatening to quit if they don't fire Milo. I mean, there's so much to say. Let me see if there's more in this video. I know there's a lot more in this video, but it's all right. Let's finish playing the video. Here we go. This is what he got. This is what he got the shitstorm for. More Milo. And again, hopefully your kids are not, and I mark this episode as explicit to respect the fact that I know I have a lot of parents who listen to me with children. So here we go again. Here's the rest of it.
Station to me.
And you know what? I'm grateful for Father Michael. I wouldn't give nearly such good head if it wasn't for him.
Oh my God! I can't handle it.
It's funny because
what is wrong with you, Ben?
Ben gave me some homework on you, Milo. He gave me a few videos to watch to brush up on my Miloisms. And one of the things that you said in one of these clips was that transgenderism is the new, frontier of rights. My wording is bad here, but it's the new frontier of social progress, and the next thing in line is going to be pedophilia. And yet here you are talking about how, look, some of these kids that get diddled by these priests, I mean, it's a good thing for them. They're getting this love. And now they are also getting
You're misunderstanding what pedophilia means. Pedophilia is not a sexual attraction to somebody 13 years old who is sexually mature. Pedophilia is attraction to children who have not reached puberty. Pedophilia is attraction to people who don't have functioning sex organs yet, who have not gone through puberty, who are too young to be able to understand the way their bodies. That is not what we're talking about.
And Coulter?
Sure, granted.
You don't understand what pedophilia is if you think that I'm defending it, because I'm certainly
No.
not.
I'm not saying you're defending it. I'm saying you're walking the borderline.
No, that's not what you said. You said I'm defending it.
That's so this is the crux. And actually, let me start. I probably should have put that video clip in the next segment, but I didn't. So Owen, you know what to do. But let's discuss this defense. There's a defense mounting for Milo, and it's based on the idea that he wasn't speaking of pedophilia. He was actually speaking of a ephebophilia. And so a lot of people are getting educated today on what a ephebophilia is, as if that's the type of as if that's better, right? As if that's better. So essentially he's saying, I'm not talking about molestation of children who don't have who haven't hit puberty, or who don't have, as Milo describes it, as sexually functioning organs. And he uses that as a justification to say, I'm not really talking about the bad thing. The bad thing is to mess with children who aren't sexually mature. But it shouldn't be a bad thing for us to mess with children who are sexually mature. I'm sorry. But if that's a distinction without a difference. That is to draw a line there. To say a 13-year-old is okay if they're sexually mature. And people are using that to defend him. I'm sorry. Are we really willing to defend Milo based on that distinction? The fact that he's not talking about a sexually immature 13-year-old, he's talking about a sexually mature 13-year-old. I'm sorry. Fuck with one of my... Listen. I could care less how sexually mature and predatorial, whatever the conjunction of that word is. I don't care how sexually mature a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old. I'm quite happy that we have thresholds, at least in most states, that are 18 and older. And to lament the fact that we impose these arbitrary systems of whatever, whatever phrasing he wanted to use, to lament the fact that we have this threshold that we as a society said, okay, we want to protect our children until they get 16, I believe in Georgia, and 18 in most states, in Florida. To lament that, why lament that? Why draw that distinction? Why make it? It makes no sense whatsoever unless you want this batch of children that you can prey on. And the fact that you have a lot of conservatives who previously endorsed the idea that gays and lesbians, the LGBTQ community, were by definition pedophiles. Those same people are now standing behind Milo because they think this is fake news and an attack on Milo, and therefore an attack on conservatism. And yet you can listen to this clip and listen to this distinction that he's trying to make and excuse it as though, oh, he's not talking about pedophilia. He's talking about ephebophilia. And what? He's now a martyr? And then you have the flip side of people who are trying to defend him and say, oh, well, he was actually discussing the fact that he was a victim. Actually, no. According to him in the same clip, he was the sexual predator at 13. But let's see that argument that he was the victim. That does not. What the hell kind of world do we live in? That does, because someone was a victim, does not protect them from being condemned for becoming a victimizer. How many times do we see victims of any type of oppression or any type of abuse or anything? Victims can become, they don't always, thankfully, but they can themselves become victimizers. And so should we sit back and say, oh, this is okay because he's really a victim and he's discussing how he was a victim? He's a grown ass man at this point advocating on behalf of ephebophilia, if you want to be precise with your language, not pedophilia, but ephebophilia. So if they're 13 and they're sexually mature, it's okay. So who are these people defending him? Well, it seems to be it seems to be this, how can I describe this best? It really seems to me that there is a nationalistic tenor to the defense of Milo coming from his fellow Brits, his fellow Brit trolls, to be honest with you. Those Brits that have no influence in their internal politics there across the pond, but see a perfect opportunity here in the United States to troll America with their bullshit. Those are the people, two in particular, who have come to the defense of Milo, along with, you know, thousands of nameless people who are pretty irrelevant to this conversation. But the people with platforms who are defending this guy are those Brits, and here they are on your screen. You have, where's what I'm looking for? Sargon of Akkad, this guy. He says, I'm not defending Milo. I'm expressing how personally I feel that what I'm watching is horrifying. And he goes on to say, imagine how awful it must be to not only be a victim of a pedophile, but then to have the media call you a pedophile. Milo goes on to say, politics and politics alone. This is discussing the situation. Nobody talking about giving a shit about stopping pedophiles. And then he goes on to say, it's shameful to watch the ever compassionate left turn a victim into Emmanuel Goldstein. Now, Emmanuel Goldstein, I'm not too familiar with who he is, but if I'm not mistaken, context clues tells me that he must have been somebody who's a pedophile. Sorry if I'm not up on my Emmanuel Goldstein. You know, whatever. Why defend this guy at all? Why defend Milo at all? If you heard the video yourself, you yourself should be opposing him at this point. I mean, for the love of God, the Nazi in chief, the neo-Nazi in chief, Richard Spencer, the alt-right Nazi, him, you know, previously supported Milo, and now he's saying, I can't roll with Milo. You're on the wrong side of history with a Nazi. Sargon, would you think this is all politics? Or do you think that because there's a political tint to it and there's a political, yes, I'm dancing on his political grave. Like I'm really quite, when I discuss the story, I'm legitimately disgusted. But when I think about who this piece of shit is, yes, I am dancing on his grave because he has no business, his political grave, because he has no business in our national discourse. So why defend him at all? Why tacitly or directly or indirectly defend him? And here goes his fellow Brit defending him even more. Paul Joseph Watson, all of the journals' outrage over Milo were noticeably quieter about 1,400 children being abused by pedophiles in Rotherham. Wonder why? Well, that's a fabulous straw man that you constructed to deflect us from the conversation about your comrade, your ideological comrade, your national comrade, and your bosom buddy Milo. You know, can we not discuss this person who was gaining national attention, getting a national platform just on Bill Maher on Friday, getting ready to be on CPAC with President Trump on the same stage and platform as the sitting president? Should we not discuss his pedophilic musings because of other incidents of pedophilia? straw men, that's a game for children. You should try it again, and try it when your arguments and your logic grow up. Let's see. Now, this is not a direct support of Milo, but this comes from our president, Trump. This is what he tweeted after the Berkeley incident. He said, if UC Berkeley does not allow free speech and practices violence on innocent people with different points of view, no federal funds, ? This came as a result of the protest that turned violent. The protest, we'll leave it there. We'll have that discussion later. But the protest that turned violent at UC Berkeley when protesting Milo's speech there before college Republicans. And at that speech, Milo, amongst other things, was going to out several undocumented students and several trans students, if I'm not mistaken. But because people protested him, Donald Trump sees that as an opportunity to attack UC Berkeley and to try to strong arm UC Berkeley into allowing, and see, and finish that thought. I'm done with that thought. New thought here. This goes to this juvenile interpretation of freedom of speech. It is a juvenile interpretation of freedom of speech to assert or believe that we have to give a platform to anyone and everyone. And it is such a ubiquitous train of thought that even the ACLU stumbled into the conversation on the side of Milo because everyone should have free speech. I'm sorry. The First Amendment only guarantees free speech in terms of the government. There's stuff that you cannot say and be expected to be given other people's platforms. It's that simple. There's no reason for us to even talk about it anymore. It's done. You can't say certain things on your job. You can't say certain things and be caught saying it and then expect to given someone's platform. Like, CPAC is full of shit and all things considered, but they made the right call finally. Never mind his racism, his misogyny, his transphobia, and his sympathies with a Nazi sympathizer. Never mind all that. But finally, they said this is one bridge too far. And then, you know what? I agree with them. I'm like, holy shit. Like, that video is beyond disgusting. I don't care. I don't care if he was a victim because he has transformed into a victimizer. That's not, being a victim does not allow you the space to become a victimizer. It doesn't. How many people have been assaulted as children that have gone through all types of hell, therapy, time, and never became the victimizer themselves? I'm sorry, but I wish I had some music because Milo is disgusting. And he should never have been given a platform. He should never have been afforded a stage to speak to the international community or the American community because he's irrelevant in Britain. But he should never have been given this space to spew his hatred because his hatred has been deep-seated and it has affected so many marginalized communities. They don't care about the marginalized communities. But I guess now that he's gone one bridge too far for conservatives, finally now they're saying enough's enough and Milo has to go. Well, enough of the serious talk. Pop your bottles, pop your champagne bottles, dance a jig on his political grave because Milo is out of our national discourse and he is going to be shunned. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, right? He'll be here tomorrow. He'll be here for a couple of weeks, but this is pretty much the nail in his political coffin. And you know what, Milo? Congratulations. You played yourself and you earned this. All right, 857-600-0518 if you want to join the conversation. We have a lot of news to cover. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
This is Umar from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn's in the house. What's up, Umar?
See, now this is very interesting because remember when I said you got to call monsters monsters?
Yep.
And I get attacked a lot on that one. But that group, including Milo, started out as a thing called Gamergate.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, the name Gamergate came from, what's his name, from Chuck and Firefly, Adam Baldwin.
Okay.
See, how this started was, this is the group, Gamergate, that started attacking Anita Sarkeesian and the other Nentaku reporter.
Yep.
They kept saying, just like now, well, we're not attacking women. We're talking about ethics in video game journalism, which made no bloody sense. But they went on these huge attacks. I'm not even thinking, you can't go to a Anita Sarkeesian video because she had to close up her comments the amount of attack.
Yep.
Now, if you go to Amazing Atheist, Sargon, Thunderfoot, the whole crew, go back to all their channels about 2 years, you are going to see nothing but Anita Sarkeesian, Anita Sarkeesian breathe, drunken peasants, videotaped Anita Sarkeesian having lunch, posted it on YouTube.
Wow.
They doxed her home address. They doxed her workplace. Then they moved to feminism. And then a year after the humongous trend of Anita Sarkeesian video, and I'm saying it's all of them. I'm not even joking. It's just one cursory look on their channels.
Yep.
Go back 2 years because YouTube keeps those videos. Anita Sarkeesian, then feminism. And then they started attacking college girls. It's interesting enough, they never attack guys. Like when they come at me, I come back at them and all of a sudden they stop talking to me.
Yeah.
But they are all over. That Foxy Jezebel, she could tell you, there's a YouTuber called Peach. She got a taste of it. Only women, and these are the guys. See, when I tell people, you got to look at the history. I'm not calling these people monsters out of the blue, because I used to listen to Amazing Atheist because I liked his take on religion. But my question to all these so-called, that's what used to be the unifying factor with these guys.
Right.
We're atheists. Religion is unfair. Religion is unfair, but there is no racism. There is no sexism. Rape, well, it's just women getting drunk. And this Sargon has said that on like 1 billion videos. Rape is just women getting drunk and regretting sex afterwards.
Wow.
So this is why, and the funny thing is, Natalie Alfred pointed this out on her Facebook. All Bill Maher and his crew had to do was do a Google search. When you don't have to argue about this. Gamergate, do a Google search. Then they move into MRAs, the next
men's
class
rights activists
of morons.
Yeah.
Lord. Now, see, the only reason I'm so passionate about this is because I was on the bandwagon of fighting this and trying to convince. They've made a lot of YouTubers leave. A lot of the young ladies used to do awesome videos.
Yeah.
And they had to leave because they weren't just getting attacked. Now, these guys will go on 4chan and plan these attacks. They got caught because people like Kevin Logan, Steve Shrives, all kinds of people started screen shooting their plans of attack.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reason why people like Bill Maher, and he used the same arguments I used to get from other progressives on YouTube. Well, we have to listen to their side. And my point was always,
no.
You listen to the side of a person who disagrees. Should there be a death penalty? Should there be a death penalty?
Right.
Is crime too high? Is crime not too high? Should I have sex with children? Is not an argument. Should police shoot people in the back? Is not an argument. Should I join the Nazi party? Is not an argument. That is not a side. That is madness. Everything. And the funny thing about it is that this happened in such a way that it comes home to a point that I want to make real briefly. As much as we talk about how much trouble we're in with the Trump administration and his followers and his cabinet, there's a flip side to it too. This is the greatest progressive recruiting garden on the planet.
You're not lying.
We have the opportunity to recruit, I hate to say it, like Nazis, because they're putting us in a position, the same position that Bush put the country into, that even made racists say, okay, I had enough. We're voting for the black guy. But it's going to be worse. We are in fertile ground. This is the thing I was saying about it. I understand marching's not enough. I understand Twitter and Facebook is not enough. But get in there and start recruiting.
Doing
start
something.
Pulling these people.
Yeah.
because this is what we're dealing with.
Yep,
and
for sure.
And people are woke. And this Milo thing, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe my Twitter.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Whoa, because I didn't know. That was one of the arguments he was saying. Bill, we're not saying you can't have freedom of speech, but look this guy up. And that interview he had was a joke.
Yep.
But Bill Maher is so bitter about that stupid Berkeley thing. Bill,
Yeah.
one college. You didn't lose your show. You still got your stand-up tours. You spoke at other colleges. You're still bitter about one stupid college? And by the way, you have the freedom to speak at the college, just as they have the freedom to speak and say, we don't want you to speak. That's
Right.
two sides of freedom of speech.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's amazing. But like I was saying, recruitment.
Recruit. Absolutely, man. Awesome call, Umar. Thanks so much for that call. You're absolutely right. I don't have to add anything else to that. But what I will do is I'm going to play a portion of the best part. There was only one good thing about Bill Maher the other night, and I'm going to play that. This is a clip of Bill Maher. Well, anyway, I don't have to introduce it. This is, it is what it is. Let's listen.
You always have to fight with everybody.
I don't. We were having such a nice time, but you always invite such awful people on your show. They're so stupid. No, come on. You need to start inviting higher IQ guests, or this is going to be a disaster.
Actually, you know, let me start that again because the volume was too low at the beginning. This is Milo on Bill Maher, and my dude is on here also, and his response to Milo is worth its weight in gold. All right, here we go.
I do have to wonder if
give me a
Milo
break.
is okay with
It's this
adults
guy.
getting.
Give me a break. Here we go. This is it. This is the real one.
You always have to fight with everybody.
I don't. We were having such a nice time, but you always invite such awful people on your show. They're so stupid. No, come on. You need to start inviting higher IQ guests, or this is going to be a disaster.
First of all, wait.
These are very high.
Wait, hold on, Bill. You can go fuck yourself, all right?
Larry Wilmore.
Jack, because if this is the face of the Nazis, your argument is that these people are stupid, you didn't hear a word this man said early in this segment, because he can talk circles around your pathetic, douchey little ass.
All right, that's enough. I don't know at what point YouTube would cut that. Anyway, so Larry Wilmore from the Nightly Show, or formerly the Nightly Show, he pretty much, I mean, this is all you do. This is all you can do with these type of people. There is no rationalization with them. There's no reasoning with them. There's no debating them into better positions. Their starting positions are so disgusting that they have no place in our national discourse. They could talk about it. Go to 4chan. You have the internet. Go to 4chan and do it there. But you're not afforded a national platform unless you find someone like Bill Maher who will give you a voice, who would rather give voice to Milo than he would to Black Lives Matter, right? So you'll find some platforms for you, but you know what? We'll shout them down too. We will respond in kind. You have free speech, you can go there and speak, and we have free speech, we can protest. And the only thing that you could really do, back to my original thought, the only thing you could really do with these people is tell them to go F themselves, because there's no time to debate whether or not I should exist, or whether or not you feel like your race is naturally superior to our race, or whether or not the only problem in the black community is that you need to get married. Like these type of imbecilic starting positions, you can't, especially because they have no desire whatsoever to change their mind when they're given new information. They have no desire to argue because this is entertainment to them. This is a business model for them. The Milos, the Sargons, the Paul Joseph Watsons of the world. This is the Donald Trumps of the world. This is a business model for them because there is an audience out there that has felt so oppressed because they can't oppress. They have felt so oppressed because now they get called out for rape because they got drunk and they got the girl drunk, and now they have to actually face the repercussions of their actions when we're transforming from a society that condones child rape. I mean, you actually have people who are comparing Milo to the philosophers of old, who during their time it was completely acceptable for child molestation, but they lament the fact that society has changed. They lament the fact that society has changed from being this barbaric, even though we are still barbaric, but this society that condones and completely allows and oftentimes encouraged rape, ownership of other humans, the rape of women, and because they're a property to them, the rape of children. And because we're moving from that society to this society, they feel like they're being oppressed because now they can't just have any woman in the room be forced to have sex with them because that's the way of society. Now they're sexless because society has turned on them and sees them as the losers that they are. I'm sorry. No, I mean, not sorry about what I said. I'm sorry for having to talk about this in general. I'm sorry that this actually has taken up 49 minutes of my show, but the problem is so ubiquitous. The problem is everywhere. The problem is it's in the goddamn White House. The former editor-in-chief of Breitbart, Steve Bannon, who espouses on his platform, at a minimum, he allows this type of language and this type of conversation, is a special advisor to the president. Donald Trump himself, who advocated, but confessed to his own sexual assaults. And America, or at least a percentage of America, saw that and heard that and said, it's locker room talk. The reason we have to talk about this is because there is a large segment of society who either turns their eye to it and says nothing about it, or they genuinely lament the fact that they can't get away with date rape. I was going to try to list some drugs, but I don't even know the name of half the fucking drugs that they use to, because I've never understood. Anyway, you guys know me well enough to know that I have no point of reference to understand these people other than the fact that they need to be beat. They need to be beat electorally, and they need to be beat out of our discourse, our Overton window. They are the dregs of society. They do not belong in the national discourse. Sure, you could talk about your affinity for a phobophilia, but just not fucking on the national stage. All right. I have so many other stories to cover. I mean, I want to talk about Mosul, Trump's new national security advisor, but we're at time already. We only have 10 minutes left. Let's take this next caller who's been patient on the line. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Yes, me, Scotty from Columbus.
Scotty, what's up, man? What's on your mind?
I'm good. Just watching this whole shit show that is Milo's downfall. And now they're going to be saying that the snowflakes are after us again. I mean, you ever remember that song, the Gas Face by Third Base?
Yeah, I'm not recalling it. Go ahead and give me the lyrics.
Okay, basically the Gas Face is it was the '80s version of the Side Eye, pretty much. And the people who get the Gas Face today, Bill Maher.
Yep.
Many of the atheist community that may not agree with Milo politically, but complain about phantom enemies like social justice warriors or the regressive left.
Yeah. Come on, man.
Who else? The fourth
Steve Rubin, like Dave Rubin. There's a whole
fuck that guy. That guy is a sellout to the highest order, and that guy, I think he's pretty still mad about the whole thing of getting embarrassed for his Israel positions. But, that's a debate for another day. And this is where I used to think like, well, freedom of speech, let these people talk, have their ideas expressed, and, meet them with bad ideas. These people are not interested in that. I fortunately watched that Overtime segment with Bill Maher, and when Larry Wilmar's talking with him, and Bill Maher, doesn't challenge Milo over the fact that he outed a transgender student.
Right.
He outed a transgender student at the University of Wisconsin. Like he did that. No, it was Milwaukee. And Bill, instead of challenging him, said, "Well, maybe that's the right decision," or something along those lines. And Larry Wilmar is trying to talk some sense into Milo, and Milo just insults them to their faces.
Right.
And he just said, fuck off. Like, go fuck yourself.
Right.
And that was the right answer.
That was the right answer, dude.
It's
Seriously. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you. I'm just giving. I'm an amen in you. You know how they do in church. You say something good and we repeat it back. Go ahead. Finish the thought.
Yeah, it's like it's really it's just really. I think this whole thing of these people that still complain about SJWs or progressive left, and they're saying that Donald Trump is president because it's like, look at these people who you've elevated. Look at these. These are your guys. Like, these are your heroes.
Yep.
And even the drunken peasants are guilty of this too, because they themselves harp on this issue, and now we have to address it.
Right.
Yeah, that's all I want to say. They can all get the gas face.
Thanks, man. Thanks for the call. Definitely. I agree. I agree with you, man. Like it was like the bridge too far for the drunken peasants was the pedophilia. I mean, don't get me wrong. Actually, at least they have that. At least they have that threshold. But it's not because they could have realized that Milo was a piece of shit long before he exposed his ephebophilia caping. Let's just call it that. Thanks for the call. 857-600-0518. We'll take a few more callers. And while we wait on the callers, I'm going to just run down these headlines. These are the things that you need to know that's happening around us. So Trump selects a new national security advisor, Michael Flynn's replacement. He selected Lieutenant General H.R. McMaster. McMaster has a PhD in U.S. history from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He's listed at Times Magazine's 100 most influential people in 2014. He was awarded the Silver Star in the first Gulf War. The most interesting thing about him is that he has a totally different position with regard to Russia than Michael Flynn did. He sees Russia as being an aggressor, and he has a far more abrasive and hawkish demeanor towards Russia. So this is very interesting to see how his worldview will fit inside of the Trump administration, when the Trump administration has been favorable towards Russia since before he was elected. It seems as though that he has a disposition, a traditional disposition towards Russia, similar to that of Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis. So this is going to be interesting to see how this actually plays out. In other news that you should know, the fight for Mosul has actually advanced to the eastern portion of the city of Iraq, has been entirely retaken by the Iraqi military forces. The west side of Mosul, where there's a divide, the Tigris River runs directly through the city, splits it in half. On the western side is still controlled by ISIS, and the city is connected. The east side and the west side is connected by 5 bridges. The Iraqi military forces can't move forward yet because those bridges have been destroyed. There are over 650,000 citizens, residents still remaining in the city. And so this lends itself to being a very bloody conflict with the way ISIS operates. ISIS absolutely will use human shields, will absolutely mix in their fighters with the citizens to sabotage the military forces. So this is potentially the next phase of this fight, rather, will potentially be the most bloody in terms of collateral damage and deaths of civilians. But the Iraqi military forces has made progress towards recapturing the entire city. This has been a long fight. I believe we're almost at month 5 or 6. It began in October. And so we'll keep our eyes on those developments. An interesting story from the American Psychological Association said, do not psychoanalyze Donald Trump. This was a warning issued from psychiatrists from the association, according to the independent.com.co.uk. It warns its members, the APA warns its members not to psychoanalyze Trump, and psychoanalysts are breaking their own ethics code by attempting to publicly diagnose Trump. The American Psychiatric Association has issued a warning saying because it breaches their organization's strict code of ethics, well, just a bit of commentary here. We actually don't need the actual psychiatrist to tell us that Donald Trump is crazy. We know that shit already. That's a given. So there's no need for you all to actually violate your code of ethics. We don't need an official diagnosis. We can see it in his eyes. On the flip side of that conversation, Vladimir Putin has created a psychological profile of Donald Trump and has called him naive, or at least the psychological profile of Trump considers him naive. According to the psychological profile being assembled for President Putin, Vladimir Putin, as he prepares for his first meeting with Donald Trump, it concludes that Trump doesn't understand fully who Mr. Putin is. Interesting. So there's a quote from NBC News, and it states, very serious preparatory work is going on in the Kremlin, including a paper 7 pages describing a psychological profile of Trump, especially based on his last 2 to 3 months and the last weeks, according to NBC News. So this type of profile obviously is nothing new. I mean, there's psychological profiles on every major world. On every world leader, no matter major or small. This is something that every government engages in. But I find it ironic that Vladimir Putin views Trump as not ironic. I find it ironic from the lens of Donald Trump, who has this affinity for Vladimir Putin, and Vladimir Putin is saying, yeah, he's naive. And I think that would be the nice way of putting it. Naive is actually pretty naive, to say it the least. All right, one last story before I take this caller. I'm not going to forget you, caller. We will get you. The last story that I want to crush through is the story of Donald Trump's attack on the press. And actually, so Donald Trump sent out a tweet, as he always does, and it is news. It is news because he's the president of the United States. But this was a tweet over the weekend discussing quote unquote fake news. He said the fake news media failing in New York Times, NBC News, ABC, CBS, and CNN is not my enemy. It is the enemy of the American people. Now, a lot has been said about this over the weekend across different platforms. Everyone has had a comment about this. And most people cast this conversation, and probably rightfully so, in context of all the previous presidents who have had an issue with the press. As far back as Thomas Jefferson, I think some examples were given. And Thomas Jefferson lamented about the dishonesty of the press. However, I do believe this is one of the first presidents, maybe Nixon. I would say possibly Nixon, just because of the person that he was. But Donald Trump is not saying that he dislikes the media. He's not saying that he doesn't trust the media. He's not saying watch out for the media. He's saying that the media is the enemy of the American people. That is dramatically different than saying Thomas Jefferson saying I hate the press because they're lying, versus the American people should not trust the press. So this is not Donald Trump's battle with the press. This is Donald Trump trying to make the American people not trust the press. The entire fake news fiasco is representative of that attempt by Donald Trump. But the most nefarious thing about this is the fact that, or not nefarious, but the most detrimental thing about this is the fact that Donald Trump understands the gullibleness, how easily manipulated his particular audience is. And they're need to have a way to protect the hermetically sealed echo chamber, because if anything ever cracked this chamber, this echo chamber, this seal, if anything ever cracked that seal and they were ever exposed to information that contradicted their preconceived notions and their implicit biases, then clearly it presented an opportunity at a minimum, it presented an opportunity for them to experience the physical discomfort that comes with knowledge that disagrees with your starting position. This is true of everyone. Every single one of us are guilty. I mean, when we hear something and we see evidence of something that disagrees with what we want to believe, it causes us physical discomfort. And Donald Trump has given a tool to his followers. He's given them a way to dismiss everything that contradicts their desire to see Donald Trump as their great leader, their dear leader. Now, Fox News, media in general, people do this on behalf of their preferred president. The media has done this in the past. I mean, like, there's always going to be a website that you can go to that's going to give you everything that you need to feel okay about the person that you are supporting, even though the evidence is saying the person that you're supporting is a piece of shit. There's always been, but have we ever had a president who themselves has taken up their platform and their bully pulpit to feed this level of derangement inside of their own support base, to say, don't trust the media? Even Barack Obama, when he was frustrated and infuriated with Fox News, he said he didn't like Fox News, but he never said that they were the enemy of the people. We're going into a whole new arena of propaganda and a whole new level of actual assault on the First Amendment, right? We're having the highest office in America clamp down on any negative news, any negative polling, any opposition in the form of media. He's cracking down on it by not just directly attacking them, but by giving his audience everything they need to exist in la la land and dismiss everything that they see that challenges their perception of Trump or challenges their perception of conservatism. It doesn't matter, because now they can just easily dismiss it as fake news, and they are the enemy. Don't trust anyone but Donald Trump. Don't trust anything that's negative. If it's negative, it's fake news. If it's positive, it's good news. And we're only not even, today marks the first full month of Donald Trump. I swear it feels like it's been a year. I swear it feels like it's been at least 2 or 3 years, but we've only completed 1 month of Donald Trump's presidency. Caller, you're live on the air. Last call of the night. What's your name, comment, and or your question?
Hey, Ben, this is Bryce. What's going on?
Not much, man. What's going on?
Yeah. Hey, Ben, I've been working a lot, so that's why I've been able to call. But, so, yeah, the Trump thing is it's like it's funny, scary. It's just like all different adjectives. And then he did the crazy rally the other day. My mom was watching it. She just couldn't believe her eyes. And I'm just like, yeah, this is where we're at. And now you got then the Milo dude the Milo thing just confuses me, because you're supposed to be gay, but you hate the LGBT community and other factors. That just confuses me. And it's just, this is what it is. This is where we're at.
Yeah.
And, somehow, some way, we got to find a way to get out of it, and which we will. But it's depressing, because it's just I don't know what to say. I've lost for words. I really have lost for words, because it's just mind blowing how dumb and insane this has become.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know.
It is.
I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah. If I could try, and thanks for the call, man. We definitely appreciate the call. If I could try to just put words and make it succinct it's confusing because it is so transparent to us that this is nothing but pseudo-intellectualism, and pseudo-intellectualism to forward the most disgusting and nefarious ideologies and thought processes that remain in our society. I mean, we're literally talking about people who need to sound smart in order to justify the most disgusting positions possible, where most of the world, we're trying to fight against the rape culture. They want to philosophize over why rape culture doesn't even exist, when the evidence is quite to the contrary. While most of society is trying to say that there is and has been and remains vestiges of racism that affects our society, you have a group of people who have always been relegated to the dregs. I mean, we've always looked at them as, you're a bumpkin, you are an idiot, you can't even string a coherent sentence together. And so surely there was a space for fake intellectuals like Sargon of Akkad, Paul Joseph Watson, and Milo to rise to the top of the cesspool and take advantage of pseudo-intellectualism in order to give voice to the most disgusting things in our society. While the rest of society is trying to move away from it, they're moving headlong into it. And the bottom line is, whether they believe it or not is completely irrelevant. They're willing to weaponize it and monetize it, because there's a disgruntled group of Americans, and the three people I named aren't even American. They're irrelevant in their nation. So they have to find the idiots in our country who are impressed by British accents. I mean, like, the fuck is that? But they've weaponized it and they monetize it to their benefit and to the detriment of society. So because it's to the detriment of society, and because they're intentionally doing this for profit, and they don't care about the fallacious nature of their arguments, they don't care about the logic and the reason. They're quite honestly, and even though they lift up logic and reason as a justification for what they're doing, but they completely are indifferent to the fallacious nature of their arguments. Because of that, we on the left have just come to the conclusion that, you know what, fuck you. There's no reason for us to have a conversation. There's no reason for us to entertain you. I mean, there's no reason for us to debate you. There's no reason for us to even have this dialogue, because you're not remotely interested you're not remotely interested in what a logical person does. When you find evidence that contradicts your position, you're willing at a minimum to reconsider your position. But each of these people, when they find evidence that contradicts their position, they just dismiss it as fake news. There's nothing left to talk about with them. The only thing we can do is organize and beat them. So here's my question. Who have you talked to today? Who have you mobilized? Who have you pushed to register to vote? Who have you registered to vote today? If you didn't do it today because it was a holiday, let's do it tomorrow, because we've got to beat these sons of bitches, and we've got to beat them bad. See you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
This goes out to all the parents that had their kids listening. Just want you to know, tomorrow will be a little cleaner. We just had to take care of some business here. But it is what it is. See you guys next time.